Live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Zenny 62 on a Tuesday night. And without any further ado at all, I want to introduce everybody to the man I call my boss because he was my boss, and I still actually not only that, Elihu, you were also on the advisory board for my first company, Sports Business Simulations.
Right, I remember that. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Venture, and quite frankly, it was a lot of fun. I really think it was really a great tool for people to understand sports management.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I thank you for, among other things, just really taking seriously the effort when a lot of people were thinking, hey, what's this all about? But and prior to that, folks, I was his economic advisor. And Elihu brought me in late in 1995 and said, Zenny, you have you can look at everything from redevelopment to the Raiders, but just remember one thing: just because you give me advice doesn't mean I have to take it.
You have a lot of good advice, and don't deliberate your advice. You're a smart young man and very aggressive and confident.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you know what? I learned from you. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I learned, among other things, the meaning of how to sit down and listen and go from being a bomb thrower to a value adder, And
that's a good. Well, that's a good thing. Although every once in a while it's good to throw a bomb.
Yeah, but I remember. I'll never forget.
Just to keep them off base. Some people think you're always going to be calm, cool, and collected, and maybe just take a little advantage or don't take you as serious. So every once in a while, you just say, wait a minute, I don't have to be cool, calm, and collected. It depends on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember Elihu told. Folks, I worked for them on Clarion, and I had this reputation of throwing bombs. And Elihu basically said, and I'll never forget it. We were in a meeting on the Oakland Army base regarding the land conveyance, and you said, just sit right here next to me. It was on the left, and that was the moment I realized the meaning of cultivating power. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Obviously, by the fact that I'm saying that. Hey, thank you. Hey, so let's talk Oakland elections. And while we are talking, our friend Tony Thurmond is in a battle, huh? Still.
Yeah, and although it's looking more and more like he's going to win, he's ahead like in the 55% range in places like Alameda County and Santa Clara County and San Francisco, in Los Angeles. And Tuck really only winning in the places like the Valley and San Diego and Orange County. So I think in the final analysis, if the numbers keep trending the way they are, he'll overtake Marshall Tuck and be the superintendent of public instruction in California.
Hey, overall, what do you think of the Oakland elections and particularly Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf winning a second term?
Well, Libby won primarily because there wasn't any real competition. There was nobody that had either the financial support or broad collaborative campaign base that would allow them to overcome an incumbent mayor. Some people had progressive, some had black, some had Asian, and there were different coalitions, but none of them were citywide. And as a result, the outcome was not really questionable in my mind.
Well, what about, did we overestimate the ability, or did I overestimate the ability, as some say that I did, of Cat Brooks to actually beat Mayor Schaaf?
Cat, I think, is a very attractive candidate. I think that, first of all, she never run before. She got in the race late, didn't have the financial support that was necessary to run a citywide campaign successfully, and didn't have a broad-based campaign. She had a base that was progressive and primarily African-American, but didn't have strong bases in other communities and other areas of the city.
And I remember she told me that she leaned on you for advice. What kind of advice did you give her? Because I talked to her as well.
I told her she had to run a collaborative campaign, that she needed to raise the money, that you got to be able to communicate with voters. When they don't know who you are, then it's important that they get messages that reinforce their sense that A, you're capable, and B, that you have a plan to make positive change in the city. And I think that was a challenge for someone who's never run for office before.
Yeah, one thing I told Kat before, and I'll say it again, it was a treat to watch her personally grow. From an activist a year ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? To this powerful woman who was written up in Black Enterprise and the Root and all these other publications, and I thought, wow, go Cat,
Yeah, well, she had a certain amount of charisma and confidence, and quite frankly, she had an opportunity to broaden her base, particularly with young people, and with progressives. I think she could have been much more formidable. But you can't win an election with, particularly with ranked choice voting. Now, if it had gone to a runoff, it might have been different. But in ranked choice voting, you only get one shot at the prize.
Now, what does it say about? I mean, Libby could take this two ways. One way, to me, I want your response on this. Oh, by the way, folks, with Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris, also who is transferred from Alta Community College District. If you have a question, please type it in the field on the screen. I'll read it. If it's appropriate, I'll read it. If it's not, it won't get read. But as I was saying, can Libby be now the all high and mighty queen and think, I've got this, I'm unstoppable, I have a mandate? Or how should she play this in your mind?
You could try to play that role, but Oakland is a challenging city. You got structural deficits, you got problems with crime, you got problems with gentrification and homelessness. There's too many challenges for anybody to be arrogant. You got to ask for everybody's help, everybody's ideas. You got to be willing to demonstrate an inclusion as opposed to an exclusion, both in your politics and in your administration. I think she needs to be stronger in her direction of the city administration. So I think there's a lot of things that Libby has to do if she's going to be effective for the next 4 years.
When you say she needs to be stronger in her direction of the city administration, do you have a specific idea in mind, or what do you mean?
She is a strong mayor form of government. City administrator is appointed by her in order to work in her direction. Libby has an agenda. She has ideas. She has policy. And the city administrator's job is to strongly, and if not enthusiastically, implement those ideas. But if you're not going to have a strong mayor form of government, all you're going to have is an administrator who's going to try to keep things, afloat. I don't think the administration of the city is particularly strong. I think it's one of the weakest that I've seen in recent years. And I think that Libby's going to have to seize control of that and make some corrections, or she'll limp along for the next 4 years, and she'll have some successes, but not those that she's capable of doing if she were to take control of the city government.
How would you also assess, before I go back to the topic of mayor, the change in District 6 from Desley Brooks to Lauren Taylor, who I have to give a plug to Lauren because he reached out to me the other day. He really seems like a guy who wants to really come right in and do a great job for everybody.
Right. Well, I think that Desley, it had more to do with her demise than Lauren. The problems with Elaine Brown and the problems with her staff member and the Millmont farmers market, all those things created an image that was detrimental. And I think that while I think Desley had a lot of strength, I think that she couldn't overcome all of those things. But somebody who was well funded, had an organized campaign, relatively young, had the mayor's support, and leveraged that, and was able to convince a lot of the people that Desley's behavior, both individually and as a member of the council, was not conducive to the overall benefit of our district or the city.
What Desley served 16 years. What do you credit her the most for?
Really having a real commitment to working in her district, whether again with the farmers market or the big concert she had in the summer. I think she really was committed to community service. Her problems were much less in her district and much more in City Hall.
And do you think that she mainly came in and, I'll just ask this. Why is it seemed like, I'll just say this candidly. I remember the first time I met Desley, it was through Frank Jordan, and it didn't go exactly the way I expected it to, but I came to know her sister, and her sister kind of brought us together, and I just kind of forgot it, you know. And that was a long time ago. That was at least 12 years ago. How come there are people like myself who've never had a problem with Desley, really? And I think the first time was just a misunderstanding. She thought it was somebody else, but and then other people seem like they were just sensitive. Is it just the changing times? Is it social media has made us too sensitive? What happened?
Well, I think there were great conflicts between Desley and other members of the city council. A lot of people that I've seen Desley as collaborative. Desley is a very strong, opinionated person, and some people say she doesn't take any prisoners, and that can be an effective strategy on some levels. And on other matters, does not give you the kind of support that you need from colleagues. And so I think that often she was seen as a lone wolf, and she got away with the 16 years, and eventually those things, more often than not, will catch up with you.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because Desley, you know, I've had my arguments with her, but it's kind of like I'll think of it this way. Okay, she'll say something, and I'll kind of let the storm cloud pass over, and then I'll like come back the next day and say, "Hey, by the way, about that thing," and she'll respond differently, you know. But it's
Desley is Desley, and you know, and I like Desley.
Me too.
And I've had run-ins with Desley, and like you said, you got to back off. Everybody doesn't back off. Some people want to run headlong into Desley, and you know, and she's going to meet force with force. She's not somebody who takes insult with kindness or understanding. She meets force to force, and if she feels somebody is not operating in her interest or with her or with respect for her, she'll force the issue.
Yeah, I think, you know, part of it comes from a very true, rightful, and just feeling that as a Black woman she's disrespected when as a Black woman in power. You know, I think that's about 80% of it, and you know, I really I understand that. What bothers me, I think, what bothers me about the outcome, Elihu, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, maybe you can help me, is the feeling that society sort of there are certain elements in society that don't respect that and have essentially won the battle.
Well, it fits. I mean, I think she did much better in the flatland she did in the hills. Desley's personality mirrors one of my good friends, Maxine Waters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Maxine doesn't take any prisoners either. Her district respects her for it, but she's in the right district, and they want her to be aggressive. They want her to bring truth to power, to insult the president, and to threaten impeachment and other kinds of things. So it really depends on your district, and in that particular situation, she had a strong base again in the flatland, and which was not mirrored in the hill.
So, also looking at Abel Guillen, I was surprised that Abel lost to Nikki Bass. I'm not taking anything away from Ms. Bass at all as a community organizer. I just felt that having bet against Abel the first time he ran, I wasn't going to make the mistake, you know, the second time.
Abel is a very effective campaigner, and I've seen him in a number of different races. He's organized. He's a good fundraiser. I mean, he barely lost the race for the state assembly to Rob Bonta. And in this particular case, it's hard to be an elected official and a campaigner. And Nikki started off in March, going door to door, having house meetings, and quite frankly, she out organized Abel, even though Abel ran a very campaign, it was very close.
Yeah.
But she prevailed, and that's what politics is all about. They win by an inch or a mile. She took it 4 years.
And she becomes the first Filipino woman to be in council member, you know, in Oakland's history. You know, absolutely. by the way, John Mark says, hello, guys, and hello to Mr. Elihu Harris, the greatest Oakland mayor ever. And
thank you very much.
And hey, so what's I've only had a chance to talk to Nikki really once and extensively. What's your read of the new District 2 council member?
She's a community organizer. I think she wants to really organize the community. I think that she probably be collaborative. I don't see her as someone whose personality is going to come in with offense, but rather with a sense of cooperation and a desire to work cooperatively to get things done. And I think that's the right attitude in a city like Oakland. You know, the districts are large, but not so large geographically that the problems are unique in one district as opposed to the other. I mean, District 2 is kind of features Chinatown and Trestle Glen and areas like that, Grand Avenue. And I think, though, that she's going to, you know, she'll have to grow and she'll have to continue to keep the energy and perspective that she brought to her campaign. And that's going to be the challenge. But assuming she's able to do that, she may be a very effective member of the city council.
And we come to District 4 and Shang Tao, who I felt was the best candidate. But what do you think about that race, District 4 in the Hills?
Well, I mean, I think the front runner dropped out.
Yep. Charlie Michelson. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of candidates who ran, none of whom had real strong organizational financial basis. Chang Tao is a young woman who came out of the Philadelphia Community Colleges. I knew her when I was chancellor. She's aggressive and certainly she's overcome a lot in her life, domestic violence and the like, and she came with a determination. I mean, she called me from the outset, and it was just that I had too many friends and people that I liked in the race to want to be directly involved. Pam Harris was one, Joe Simmons. I go on and on. There were almost every one of those candidates were people who I had personal relationships with, and just didn't feel that I had the presence or the capacity to weigh in because I didn't dislike or find any of them unwilling to really give their all on behalf of the 4th Council District. But she won. I think she ran the best campaign. I think she was benefited again by Charlie dropping out, but I do think that she is committed to being an elected official. She came with a lot of desire and a lot of commitment both to running and serving. And, and she has an ally, Rebecca Kaplan, and she and Rebecca, I think, will form an alliance. And hopefully they'll be able to get 2 or 3 other members to work with them. And if that's the case, then there may be a working council majority. If not, then we'll continue to see a divided council will be 4-4, and the mayor breaking the tie from time to time.
Do you think that, one thing I have to say about the District 4 candidates is I had a number of them on this program, and I was really impressed with everybody. And I met them in person, many of them, and I liked them a lot. Just great people, just fantastic people.
Right.
Hey,
I think they all ran. They really wanted to represent and serve. And that's always my primary criteria for anybody running for office. What is your motivation? What do you want to do to get elected? I mean, they all wanted to serve and they wanted to contribute.
Hey, do you think that the outcome would have been different if Rebecca Kaplan, who's our at-large council member, had decided to run for mayor as she originally said?
Yeah, it might have been different. But she, as of June, July, really had made up her mind. I don't think she could go race for mayor without commitment and planning. And I just think by the time she finally figured out that it was going to be a very difficult race, I think she made the right decision, by the way. You can't keep running for office and losing. I hope that people are going to take you seriously. So I think she decided, look, I may run again in 4 years, but I'll be ready if I run. And I'll do it when we be running against an incumbent. And I have the opportunity to really put the pieces together.
In fact, that brings me to this question, because Libby we'll see 20, now she's really elected, she'll be 2022. Who do you see as possible? I know it's a crystal ball is long out there, but who could be the next mayor?
Well, there are at least 2 or 3 people talking about it. I think the potentially Rebecca would be the leading candidate. I've heard that Lynette is talking about running for mayor. I've heard Senator Cat Brooks may run again. But other than that, I'm not sure that anybody's logical. Doesn't mean somebody can't do it. I mean, you got other incumbent members of council who will be up for election or may run for mayor.
Hey, do you see Cap?
So I think that's,
do you see Cat Brooks running against Lynette since Lynette's seat's going to come up, District 3?
I would not foreclose that possibility.
Wow, that would be an interesting one. A quite interesting one. Hey, everybody, we're with Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. Elihu, I have to note that Libby survived losing the Raiders. There were some people who thought, hey, you lose the Raiders, you lose the Warriors, you're toast, right?
No, I never believed that. Let me tell you, when I was mayor, I found out that there are more people who read the front page than the sports page.
Yeah.
And there's a fervent base of Raider fans, but they don't make up the majority of the voters in the city of Oakland. And the Raiders are not the priority for the majority of voters. I mean, you got 50,000 people who go to the game. They're not all from Oakland.
Right.
They're from all over the region. And so a lot of people were disgusted with the Raiders because they moved to LA, and then when they came back, they were kind of quasi fans, not with the enthusiasm they had when they left. And same thing now. I mean, I think a lot of people see that this is another portrayal by the Raiders rather than a failure of Libby Schaaf. I mean, Mark Davis wanted to go to Las Vegas, and I'm not sure that people said, look, we're going to humble ourselves to the point we're going to give away the town in order to keep the Raiders when they keep wanting to leave town anyway. There wasn't a cooperation, even though there were options that could have kept them in town, and including that of Ronnie Lott. I don't wish the Raiders well in Las Vegas. If they do succeed, then that means Mark Davis made the right move. But quite frankly, I feel an abandonment of a fan base that's been with them in good times and bad, who supported them, who worked to bring them back. And then 20 years later, here we go again. Actually, 23 years later, here we go again.
And plus, the Warriors moving to San Francisco, but is that a bigger deal since they're just moving across the Bay? I feel like they've abandoned.
I don't think they're abandoning Oakland. They're not necessarily abandoning their fan base, although the cost of tickets is going to be such that a lot of the people who currently have tickets, who are blue-collar people living in the East Bay and the region, may not be able to afford to buy those, $26,000 a year lower bowl tickets in San Francisco.
Hey, Corey Brown asks, have you ever thought of running for a higher office?
I thought about it when I was mayor, and knew that I couldn't raise enough money to run statewide. California takes $1 million a week in TV money.
Wow.
To run for office.
Wow.
And I just felt like, hey, number one, I don't want to try to do that. Number two, I don't even think I can.
Hey, speaking of which, and looking at the election races, how would you assess the blue wave from a California point of view, from from DeLeon's threat to Senator Dianne Feinstein at the California convention, Democratic convention? What did you think about all of this as it was unfolding?
Evidently, all of them going to be Dianne Feinstein. I think look at numbers where he wasn't going to get that close. Dianne is broad-based. She's considered a model. She's acceptable to the Democrats, and quite frankly, not alienated to the Republicans. So it'll be very hard to be able to give 50% of the California electorate away from Dianne Feinstein.
Did we overplay the idea that the socialists were going to take over the Democratic Party?
Well, I think progressives on many areas have success. Things like minimum wage, things about housing. There are many areas that the electorate, not only in California but around the country, moved a little bit to the left. Not on things that have often defined Democrats and Republicans, but often defined independents. Women certainly alienated by Trump's behavior and attitude toward women. There were a lot of things that worked. And the Democrats were able to take advantage of them. And the close elections in places like Texas and Georgia and Florida, I think certainly indicated that there is a constituency, particularly younger voters and women voters, that if ultimately cultivated tide in some of these red states in the next few years. Arizona being a prime example.
Hey, coming back to discussing the Oakland City Council races in Districts 2, District 4, and District 6. Moving forward, for anybody that's thinking about running for council in Oakland, what's your advice for them?
Try to get appointed to a board or commission. Be active in your community, whether it's your neighborhood association or your church or other social organizations, because the two sources of power, money and people. You need both. Whatever you lack in one, you got to look up in the other. And a lot of people say running for office is just filing for election, but not having support, not having the issues or ideas or the money. That's like waiting for lightning to strike, not the way to get elected.
Do we have too much turnover now? Because here's why I asked, because let's take District 4. 10 years ago, we had Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, and then Libby gave way to
actually back up, Gene Kwan.
Yeah, Gene Kwan, excuse me. Gene Kwan gave way to Libby Schaaf.
And then Libby Schaaf took over from Gene Kwan.
Right.
2 years later.
Yeah, and then Annie Campbell Washington took Libby's seat.
Right.
Annie decided not to run for re-election because I guess it was too hot for her. And
no, she got a better job.
She got a better job, yeah. Well, she I'm just going with what she put out there. I know she got a better job, but I was teasing. It was teasing. I was giving a little rib there, okay?
Right.
But no, she did get a better job. She's assistant dean, actually associate dean at the Goldman School, very prestigious job. Not a part-time job at the University of California at Berkeley, my alma mater, which I've been on the alumni board now. Go Bears! Now, but now we have Chantal. So we've had 4 council members for that seat in 10 years, and that kind of turnover. Isn't that too much to really expect to get anything done? I mean, you're turning around. It's like.
Remember, none of the people who won the seat beat the incumbent.
Great point.
So,
great point.
And I don't think that in the next 8 to 12 years, Chantal is going to run for anything else.
You think she's going to be the first person that sticks?
Well, I think she wants to be there for certainly at least the next 2 or 3 terms.
Mm-hmm.
and then see what's open to her. But it's hard enough getting elected to the city council without I guess because she's in a 4-year seat. I guess in the odd years in between midterms, she may have an option of taking a free ride. But there's only a few jobs, board of supervisors or legislature, and I don't foresee in the next 6 years she's going to beat Rob Bonta. In 2024, maybe she'll take a shot at it, but then she'd have to, she'd have a free ride actually if she wanted to run. But I think it's going to be pretty much that this is one of the best political jobs she's going to get, unless she sees something better. I think she wants to be an elected official, and I just think once you get a job like this, I think you want to keep it till you got something better with some certainty or less risk.
As I think about what you were saying, it has been a stepping stone job. You had Gene ran for mayor, won, ran for re-election, lost. Libby ran for mayor after holding the seat, and then Annie stepped down. Although I thought for a second she might run for mayor because it just seemed like but she didn't do that. So, what is it about District 4 and that seat that makes candidates not?
It's easy. One of the highest turnout, most affluent districts in the city. A lot of activists, a lot of people who are well educated and informed, and it's certainly not a bad base to run for city office if you can find strength in the flatlands. I mean, you start with the hills, but how do you connect with the flatlands? Libby was able to do it. Gene Kwan was able to do it. Jerry Brown was able to do it. You got to be able to connect the hills and flatlands. You can't make just one or the other.
Why is that?
Well, because you basically need both. No one gets elected without collaboration, and you have politics, you have economic politics, you have racial politics, you have all kind of different factors at work in determining whether or not somebody gets elected or not. And you can't make it with just one facet. You got to have multiple facets of support.
Hey,
and again, that goes geographic as well as ethnic, as well as partisan, as well as philosophical.
I got to ask you the question: what's going to happen with Councilmember Larry Reed's seat? He comes up for re-election another couple years.
There are people who are already poised. I don't know whether or not Larry's going to run for re-election, but his daughter is one person that's been rumored.
That's Treva.
There are right, Treva, and there are others who are. You have people like Houston.
Ken Houston.
Ken Houston.
Who ran for mayor.
Ran for mayor, but he had a strong base in the Flatland. Not strong enough to run citywide, but certainly he has volunteers and people who may be enthusiastic about him if he decides to run again. So all those are factors.
If Ken ran for District 7, I think he could win.
Well, it depends on who he runs against, but yeah, I'm not looking at an analysis of the district, but the mayor's race or any other race in which he's run. But he hasn't run in District 7 yet, so I don't know what that means either about his chances or about his desire to serve in District 7.
Yeah.
But I think that he certainly is a potential candidate that people need to keep aware of.
Yeah, I think for mayor, to me, when he was running for mayor, I got the impression he was running more even on the mayor's scale as a District 7 representative. He didn't seem to really venture out beyond that. Hey, let's talk about Mayor Schaaf's future. Where does she go after being mayor? She's got to do a good job first.
Well, there are a number of possibilities. Starting 2022, theoretically, she can run for the state senate. I think that Nancy Skinner will be out in 2022, so that would be a race she can run. I don't think she's going to run statewide in 2022, but I guess she could. But I do think that it's unlikely she'll run for mayor of Oakland. It's just very hard to serve as mayor of Oakland. So why would anyone want to do that for more than 8 years? The last person to serve for more than 8 years was Lionel Wilson, and that was because they changed the election schedule.
And on that note, how do you think how do you think in the scale of great mayors of Oakland, how do you think Libby will be regarded? Or how do you think she's regarded right now?
I think Libby's a very nice person. I think that her Oakland Promise is a good initiative. I think there's going to be, still many challenges that face her moving ahead. I think that if she doesn't do something significant about homelessness, she's able to do something significant about crime reduction and policing. She is able to do something about increasing the availability of housing for those who live here. Those are she has a huge structural deficit. All these are factors that will be viewed when it comes to how successful she was or wasn't as mayor. I think that her success at being elected twice is clear. No one can take that away from her. The last person who got elected to 8 years was Jerry Brown. Yeah. And in between that, there were two others who only got elected for 4 years each.
Would you say, if Libby were to call you in tomorrow, what would your advice to her be?
She is the control of the government. Get a city administrator that will correct some of the neglect and failures of the city administration. Someone who will implement her policies, including homelessness and housing and crime and things like that. Cleaning up the streets. There are a lot of issues that are persistent in the city, and I think people like Libby. I think she's a very likable person, and and even at the end of the time, I think she'll still be likable. But I think when people look at what she's achieved, that's where she's going to have a different
Hey, before I let you go and get some rest, I got to get your opinion on something. This week, I thought the city was going to announce that it was suing the NFL and the Raiders.
Mhm.
From your experience being the man who brought the Raiders back to Oakland from Los Angeles, do you think suing them is a good idea?
There's not a downside just because, and it depends on what you're suing them for. You're suing to keep them from moving. I think that's not going to be effective. If you're suing because you're trying to keep the name Raiders, or you're trying to get money that they owe you, I think that would be a more desirable and it's not effective strategy. But the Raiders are gone. I mean, let's be real. The team is gone, whether they keep the same name, whether they pay money as they exit town. But I don't think there's any question in my mind that the Raiders will not be in Oakland after next season.
It seems like Oakland is changing into something that I don't quite recognize. What is Oakland now to you? What I mean, to me,
The best analogy is Brooklyn.
mhm.
Gentrification. It's going to be increasingly middle class. You're going to find that many of the poor people and so-called disadvantaged are going to be forced out unless you're living in the housing authority. So I think Oakland's going to continue to change. It's going to become younger. It's going to be more gentrified. You're going to see, just I think you'll see events in Oakland, some of which will be determined by neighborhood, like Cinco de Mayo or the Asian Chinatown Street Fest and the First Friday. There'll be plenty of things going on in the city of Oakland. I think Oakland's going to be still a great city to live in. Hopefully the neighborhoods will become strengthened. And it will be a city with strong neighborhoods, but I'm not sure that it will have all the central identification that it had with the Raiders and the A's and the Warriors. Hopefully the A's will still be here. That will be one central identifying point for the city. But sports is a unifying banner under which a city can fly. And I think that we've had that wonderful benefit over the last 40, 50 years of having three franchises that gave us identity as well as the region, but particularly those of us who lived and worked in Oakland.
And also, I have to ask what your thought about this. What I'm about to say is, during that time, Oakland was mostly black town. We had also the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame, which I was a young volunteer in, and we've had a number of events that celebrated Black culture, Black American culture, and now it seems like even then I felt that there was a part of the city that was sort of apologizing for being the only black town in the Bay Area, and now we're less that, and I still feel like there's a trepidation about saying, "Hey, we're a black town," or "We're a black town." What do we do to overcome what I feel is a kind of a confusion or lack of pride if you compare it to Atlanta, uh, with Oakland having been and still being healthily African American versus how other city think.
Well, the demographic change. Many of the members of the Black community who live in Oakland are now living in places like Antioch, Tracy, and Sacramento, and Fairfield, and Vacaville in search of cheaper housing. And while they still look at Oakland as sort of their town, they no longer live here. Some go to church here. Some will come back for sports like the Warriors, the A's, or the Raiders. But there's no question that the demographics of this town have dropped tremendously. Atlanta still has a fairly significant base. It still has the white suburbs. Here, we still have seen a marked decrease in the African American population in the city. It has gone from around 46% to somewhere around 23%. So we've lost over half of the black population. And that's going to have an effect. And it's not going to change, and those people are probably not coming back.
Hey, do you think we could have kept or had a better chance of keeping a greater percentage of the black population had we not got rid of redevelopment, which allowed us to build more affordable housing?
Was a factor, but there was really an inducement to go out and get a house as opposed to old houses, so-called safer neighborhoods. And I think that was a factor that led a lot of people to go out to the suburbs. But the job. That's not a quality of life improvement. I think that's the downside from my perspective. People have the right to live wherever they want to. There were times when they couldn't live in the suburbs. People were induced to move to the suburbs because they found that the jobs were not in the suburbs, but in the central city, San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. And I think they got snickered into moving on to the suburb and finding that there was no longer the critical mass, the infrastructure that they were used to in the central city. Buses, so ways to get places without having to drive.
Hey, I'm gonna close out that. Elihu, I don't want you to go anywhere, folks. I'm gonna close out this segment. I'll be back in a few minutes. I want to I want to first of all thank Elihu for being on live with me right now. Elihu, I want you to stick around for a second. And but folks, I'll be back. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to Zenny62 on YouTube, you got to do it right now. But I'll be back, folks, with a preview discussion regarding tomorrow's Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting. So watch the go live, watch your notifications. I'm coming back.